It's fitting that we're on the Arctic sunrise because the Arctic is where it's at these days in terms of climate change, experiencing the most rapid changes, and the warming, thawing, melting of ice has everything to do with what's emerging as the newest dimension of climate change, which is wild winter weather and winter weather anomalies. So we need to change our energy infrastructure. It's not an easy task. Energy is necessary to all of our lives. But as we look at the choices, we've got to do a life cycle analysis to understand the impacts of each stage as we weigh coal, nuclear, biomass, clean grid, smart grid, all of the options. We have to look at the impacts all along the line. So what we've done with this study is we brought 70 people together in D.C. 2 years ago now, engineers, doctors, scientists, bankers, insurers, to look across the spectrum of what are the life cycle impacts of coal, and also what would carbon capture and storage do, and what are the risks of that. In terms of the life cycle of coal, we're all aware of some of the parts. The innovative part of this study was to try to look at the whole. So from mining, mountaintop removal, the waste stream in terms of sludge and slurry ponds, the transport, the combustion, and then we get to the capturing the carbon. All of these stages have impacts for our health. As we look at mountaintop mining, that's the most scarring and egregious part of this life cycle. 500 mountaintops have been removed in Appalachia in 4 states, burying 2,000 streams, contaminating 2,500 miles of streams in Kentucky, 2,000 miles of streams buried. And if one travels there, one sees the physical vulnerabilities of the communities around where these sites are, of boulders and trees that come down with the heavy rains that are becoming more frequent with climate change. Land disturbance, carbon removal just from the soils and the trees is part of the impacts, and we've quantified that, put some numbers on that. We look at the public health burden in Appalachia, and here we did not look at Wyoming and some of the other areas. So for the land disturbance and the public health burden, we really focused on Appalachia, and looking at the total impacts of lives lost, we estimated about $75 billion per annum is lost in terms of what are the direct impacts of cancer, heart disease. Those are the primary issues that are exaggerated in Appalachian regions. Then we looked at the combustion and the impacts on climate itself, and added that up. There's a whole dose response, concentration response formula and models to understand what particulates do to our health. Particulates also add to climate in that black carbon settles in snow, also heats the atmosphere. So black carbon's taken on a new dimension, and cleaning up our energy sources will have multiple effects. One of the issues is black carbon that warms the atmosphere, not just the sulfurs that cool it. But black carbon, in terms of our direct health, we found that the impact was equal to about $187 billion in terms of respiratory disease, heart disease, cancer, and so on over each year. We looked at subsidies, abandoned mine lands, and and then looked at the climate contribution overall of coal. All told, we estimated that the cost of coal, the true cost of coal to us, to the public, is somewhere between $1/3 to $500 billion per year. This is not borne by the coal industry. It is borne by us in terms of our taxes, our expenditures. And these estimates are actually underestimates. We didn't really look at all the health costs and all the burdens to families. We tried to just take what we could put numbers on that could be estimated in terms of dollars. The next step was to look at carbon capture and storage, because you've seen the marketing. It's all out there. Clean coal is where the future is. Turns out that burying the carbon dioxide, just one element in this whole life cycle, is costly and is risky. And the insurance industry and the reinsurance industry, like Swiss Re and Munich Re, are looking hard at whether one can insure CCS, carbon capture and storage, because there are multiple risks. Just the pressures of built up gases and liquids in abandoned landmines and near holes that we don't even know of, that are unmapped. This is what our national labs, the Berkeley National Lab, is looking at. What are the dangers of the increased pressures? Secondly, there's groundwater and underground aquifers. That's considered the main place to bury the carbon dioxide liquefied. Well, they are saline. Now we know what's happening with the oceans. As we add carbon dioxide, it's acidifying the oceans. One of the dimensions of climate change and global change that is affecting coral and marine life. Well, we add carbon dioxide to saline aquifers, they'll acidify it. That increases the erosion, potential leaks. It also leaches arsenic, lead, other heavy metals into the groundwater. So these are the potential risks that could add long tails, and these are the TAILS, long tails to the risks of CCS. And then finally, the costs are enormous. The infrastructure one needs is tremendous. To bury half the carbon would take about the same infrastructure as we now have for piping oil around. And there's an energy penalty, 1.25 to 1.4 times as much coal to get the same energy, meaning more mountaintop removal, more underground mining, more transport, and this tremendous waste stream of water and air pollutants that come out of it. What can we do? We need to phase out coal rapidly. We need to replace it. We need to transition. You're going to hear about that from Sue Reed. We need to move rapidly with healthy solutions. Electric vehicles plugged into smart, cleanly powered grids, healthy cities programs with green buildings, rooftop gardens, walking paths, biking lanes, permeable surfaces, open space, smart growth, public transport, and connect them with light rail. These are the healthy solutions that we've got to move ahead with rapidly. These are the ones we know their life cycle means more jobs, cleaner air, healthier cities, and we certainly hope it'll help stabilize the climate. Thank you very much.